Hello, friends, and welcome to this podcast. I'm going to talk about music. And, I talk a lot about music from that era, the 80s, because that's kind of where I acquired my music taste, I guess. That's when I was playing in bands and when I got really heavy into music. It's kind of like the late 70s, early 80s, going on into the 80s. I'm still into music, still listen to it, new stuff. But I like to go back and reassess some of the older stuff too. Um, and there's this phenomenon that happened back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s called punk rock. And I can't really say I'm a fan of punk rock because I don't really think there's a whole lot of it, because not many of the bands that we call punk rock identify as punk rock, if that makes any sense. I think there were certainly some bands that did identify and want to be punk rockers and really, really tried very hard to be punk rockers. But I think a lot of the bands that we call punk rock from those times, in those categories, in that bin in the record store, probably didn't really think of themselves as punk. One of those bands I'm talking about is definitely considered a punk rock band. A lot of people to this day consider them to be the first punk rock band because they were the first band with that label to put out a single, and that single was called New Rose. And you guessed it, the band I'm talking about is The Damned. But can you guess which Damned album I'm going to bring up here? It's this one. This one is called, I believe, the Black Album. It's not, normally I guess maybe I would bring up Machine Gun Etiquette or Music for Pleasure, but this one I think really represents the band in a way that they wanted. Their focus was on pop music, I think, like heavy pop, like power pop. And they did it so well. They wrote so many great songs, and there's some really great songs on here that are just pop rock, like pop songs. Get in your mind. They're not about aggression. A lot of the songs on here are kind of cinematic. They're story songs, and they're kind of scary. Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And some really good. I mean, Wait for the Blackout, Drinking About My Baby. Heavy, sort of punky sounding songs, but with that added element of a really incredible pop hook. All of their records were like that. Even the early ones that people really thought were punk rock. I think I am of the opinion that they were always a pop band, and a really great pop band with some heavy elements. Some of the guitar tones maybe approach the guitar tones of the Sex Pistols and Buzzcocks and things like that, and have that heavy, drum and bass kind of pounding away in a punk rock style. And they've done so many great songs. I don't even want to start naming their great songs, but Captain Sensible, Dave Vanian, all those the songwriters, the different other members that they've had. But I think Dave Vanian and Captain Sensible have always been there. Fantastic songwriters, fantastic band, great sound. Great personalities in here, and just so much fun. The songs are fun and like monster rock. Dave Vanian looks like a vampire, and but then look over here, and Captain Sensible looks like I don't know what, with his hat and his glasses and his furry coat. They're fun. They're not taking themselves too seriously, I think, and the songs are just great. They're just fun, upbeat pop songs that will sometimes be about monsters and vampires. I really like The Damned. They're a fantastic band. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.